The morning sun peeked through the clouds as Lily wiped down the counter of the small cafe for what felt like the 100th time that day. Her back ached, and her feet were swollen inside her worn-out shoes. At 8 months pregnant, she shouldn't have been working double shifts, but bills didn't pay themselves, and her doctor's appointments weren't getting any cheaper. "You doing okay?" Tom, the cook, called from the kitchen. He was an older man with kind eyes who always looked out for her. "I'm fine," Lily answered with a tired smile. "Just need to make it through till 3. The truth was, she was far from fine. The apartment she shared with her boyfriend Dave was in danger. After he lost his construction job 3 months ago, they'd fallen behind on rent. The latest notice on their door gave them just 2 weeks to come up with the money or face eviction. The thought of being homeless with a newborn made her stomach twist with fear. The cafe was quieter than usual for a Tuesday morning. A few regulars sat in their usual spots: the old man who always ordered plain toast and black coffee by the window, the college student with her laptop in the corner booth, and the businessman who never looked up from his phone. Lily knew all their orders by heart. The bell above the door chimed, signaling a new customer. Lily looked up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, ready with her usual greeting. But the words caught in her throat when she saw who had walked in. He was dressed simply: jeans, a black t-shirt, and a dark jacket. His long hair fell to his shoulders, and he had a short beard. But there was no mistaking him. Keanu Reeves, the actor, was standing in her cafe, looking at the pastry display like any ordinary person. Lily blinked twice, wondering if her pregnancy hormones were making her see things. But no, it was really him. She'd seen all his movies, from the action-packed ones to the romantic ones. Dave had even taken her to see his latest film for her birthday last year, before things got tough. She took a deep breath, reminding herself to act normal. Celebrities probably hated being treated differently. Besides, this wasn't Hollywood. It was a small cafe in a part of Los Angeles that tourists rarely visited. "Good morning," she said, proud that her voice sounded steady. "What can I get for you today?" Keanu looked up and his eyes crinkled with a genuine smile. "Good morning," he replied, his voice just as gentle as it sounded in interviews. "Could I get a black coffee and that blueberry muffin looks good?" "Great choice." "The muffins are baked fresh this morning," Lily said, reaching for a cup. "For here or to go?" "For here, thanks." As Lily prepared his coffee, she could feel her heart racing. Not because he was famous, though that was certainly surprising, but because a wild idea had begun forming in her mind. She'd read so many stories about Keanu's kindness, how he gave away millions to hospital workers, how he took pay cuts so other actors could be hired, how he bought gift cards for theater staff during movie shoots. Maybe, just maybe, he could help her. Not with money, she had too much pride to ask for handouts, but with a job. A real job that used her business degree. The one gathering dust while she served coffee and waited for her baby to arrive. She filled his cup with coffee and placed the muffin on a plate, her hands trembling slightly. Before she could talk herself out of it, she grabbed the receipt and a pen. On the back, she wrote a short note. "I'm having a baby next month. We're about to lose our place. Not asking for money, just wondering if you know of any office jobs at your production company. I have a business degree. Thanks for your time." She read it over, feeling foolish. He'd probably think she was just trying to take advantage of him. Celebrities must deal with people asking for things all the time. But what did she have to lose? If he ignored it, she'd be no worse off than before. Tom rang the bell for an order pickup, making her jump. She quickly placed Keanu's coffee and muffin on a tray, sliding the receipt face down beside them. "Here you go," she said, placing everything on the counter. "Enjoy." "Thank you," he replied, taking the tray to a small table by the window. Lily tried not to watch him, busying herself with cleaning the coffee machine. A few minutes passed, and she was sure he hadn't even looked at the receipt. Why would he? People didn't usually read receipts. They just crumpled them up and threw them away. The bell chimed again, and a group of office workers came in, all talking loudly and ordering complicated drinks. Lily welcomed the distraction, focusing on steaming milk and adding flavor shots. By the time she finished with them, she'd almost forgotten about the note. Almost. From the corner of her eye, she saw Keanu pick up the receipt. Her heart jumped to her throat as he turned it over, his expression changing slightly as he read her words. He looked at her for a moment, but she quickly turned away, pretending to be busy with the register. What happened next caught her completely, off guard. Instead of ignoring the note or leaving the cafe, Keanu pulled out his phone. He stepped outside, standing just beyond the window where Lily could still see him. He was making a call, speaking with a serious expression on his face. "You okay?" Tom asked, noticing her staring. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," Lily said automatically, though her mind was racing. What was he doing? Who was he calling? Had she crossed a line? The cafe door opened again and Keanu walked back in. Lily froze as he approached the counter, his expression unreadable. "Excuse me," he said quietly. "Do you have a minute to talk?" Before Lily could answer, her manager Diane appeared from the back room. "Everything okay here?" she asked, her eyes widening as she recognized the famous customer. "I was hoping to speak with—" Keanu glanced at Lily's name tag. "Lily for a moment. If that's all right." Diane looked between them, clearly confused but not about to deny a celebrity. "Of course. Lily, you can use the break room. I'll cover the front." Lily nodded, her mouth suddenly dry. She untied her apron with shaking hands and walked toward the back, hearing Keanu's footsteps behind her. The break room was small and plain, just a table, a few chairs, and a mini fridge, but it offered privacy. "Please sit down," Keanu said, gesturing to a chair as if it were his space, not hers. There was a kindness in the gesture that made Lily's eyes sting with unexpected tears. She sat, folding her hands over her rounded belly in a protective gesture. "I'm sorry if my note was inappropriate," she began. "I just thought—" "No apology needed," he interrupted gently. That took courage. Lily blinked, surprised by his response. "I just got off the phone with someone at my production company," he continued, sitting across from her. "As it happens, they're looking for an administrative assistant in the office. The last person just gave notice." Lily's heart began to race. "Really?" he nodded, reaching into his jacket pocket and pulling out a business card. "This is Paula Chen, our HR director." He scribbled something on the back of the card. "Call this number tomorrow morning. She's expecting to hear from you." Lily took the card with trembling fingers, reading the company name and address printed in elegant black letters. It felt unreal, like something from a movie, not her actual life. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice catching. "You don't even know me." "Sometimes people just need a break," Keanu said simply. "The job pays well and the benefits are good. They understand about the baby." A tear slipped down Lily's cheek before she could stop it. She quickly wiped it away, embarrassed. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," he replied with a gentle smile. "Just be at your best in the interview. The rest will work out." He stood up and Lily followed, still clutching the business card like a lifeline. "Oh, and about your apartment situation," he added casually. "Don't worry about next month's rent. It's taken care of." Lily stared at him in disbelief. "But I wasn't asking for—" "I know you weren't," he cut in. "Consider it a baby gift, no strings attached." Before she could respond, there was a knock at the break room door. Tom poked his head in. "Sorry to interrupt, but we're getting busy out front, Lily." "Of course," she said, trying to compose herself. "I'll be right there." Keanu nodded at Tom and turned back to Lily. "I should finish my coffee anyway. Thank you for making it just right." As they walked back to the front of the cafe, Lily felt like she was floating. The weight that had been pressing down on her for months had lifted at least a little. She had a job interview tomorrow. Her rent would be paid. Her baby might have a real chance. Keanu returned to his table as if nothing extraordinary had happened, sipping his coffee and looking out the window at the people passing by. Lily returned to her place behind the counter, catching Diane's curious glance. "Everything okay?" her manager asked in a low voice. Lily nodded, unable to find the right words to explain what had just happened. "Everything's fine." she said finally. Better than fine. For the rest of her shift, Lily moved through her tasks in a daze, brewing coffee and serving customers while her mind raced with possibilities. Every now and then, she'd glance over at Keanu's table, half expecting him to be gone, the whole encounter just a pregnancy-induced daydream. But he was still there, taking his time with his coffee and muffin, occasionally looking at his phone. When he finally stood to leave, he left a generous tip under his coffee cup and gave Lily a small nod as he walked out the door. "Have a good day," she called after him, the standard cafe farewell suddenly heavy with meaning. "You too," he replied, the bell chiming as the door closed behind him. Lily placed her hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick as if in celebration. "I think things are looking up, little one," she whispered. "I really think they are." The idea had come to Lily that morning as she stared at the eviction notice taped to their apartment door. 2 weeks. That's all they had left before they would be forced to leave. Dave had left early for another job interview, his 5th this week, the strain of rejection visible in the dark circles under his eyes and the slump of his shoulders. Lily had been awake most of the night, her back aching and her mind racing with worry. The baby, active as always at the most inconvenient times, had been kicking steadily as if sensing her distress. She'd placed a hand on her swollen belly, making promises she wasn't sure she could keep. "We'll figure something out," she'd whispered. Somehow, the cafe where she worked wasn't far from their apartment, just a 15-minute walk that had become increasingly difficult as her pregnancy progressed. Each step that morning had been a struggle, her feet already swelling in the early summer heat. By the time she arrived, her uniform shirt was damp with sweat and her lower back was throbbing. "You look terrible," Tom had said when she walked through the back door, his blunt honesty softened by genuine concern. "Maybe you should call in sick." But they both knew she couldn't afford to miss a shift. Every dollar counted now. Besides, Diane had already cut back her hours, worried about liability issues with having a heavily pregnant woman handling hot coffee and heavy trays. "I'm fine," Lily had insisted, tying her apron around what remained of her waist. "Just didn't sleep well." The morning had dragged on, each hour feeling like 3. Lily had moved through her tasks mechanically, taking orders, making change, wiping tables. Her smile felt painted on, her cheerful greetings hollow. The tips had been decent. People tended to be more generous when they saw her condition, but tips wouldn't save their apartment or provide stability for the baby. And then Keanu Reeves had walked in, and a desperate idea had taken root. Now, standing behind the counter after their conversation in the break room, Lily could hardly believe what had just happened. She slipped the business card into her pocket, feeling its edges press against her through the fabric, a solid reminder that she hadn't imagined the whole thing. "What did he want?" Diane asked, sidling up beside her. Her manager's eyes were bright, with curiosity, darting between Lily and Keanu, who was still sitting by the window finishing his coffee. "Just to ask about the muffins," Lily lied, not ready to share the truth. It felt too fragile, too precious, like announcing a pregnancy in the first weeks, tempting fate. Diane clearly didn't believe her but didn't push it. "Well, whatever you said, he left you quite a tip." She nodded toward his table. "Never thought I'd see a movie star in our little place." The afternoon rush began, saving Lily from further questions. A group of tourists came in, followed by the usual crowd of office workers needing their midday caffeine fix. For the next hour, she was too busy to think about what had happened, her body moving on autopilot as she filled orders and made change. But her mind kept returning to the business card in her pocket and the interview tomorrow. What would she wear? Her maternity clothes were functional but hardly professional, and she hadn't needed business attire since before the pregnancy. There was no money for shopping either. The rent money Keanu had promised would help them stay in their apartment, but it wouldn't arrive in time for her to buy a new outfit. As the rush died down, Lily took a rare moment to sit in the back room, easing the pressure on her swollen ankles. She pulled out the business card, running her fingers over the embossed lettering. Paula Chen, HR Director. The number Keanu had written on the back was a direct line, he'd said. She'd be expecting Lily's call in the morning. What if it was all a joke? What if she called and the woman had no idea who she was? Celebrities were known for making empty promises. But everything she'd ever heard about Keanu suggested he wasn't like that. The stories about his kindness were legendary, even if half of them were exaggerated. Lily's phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from Dave. "No luck at Henderson's. Trying the warehouse on Main next. Love you." Her heart sank. Dave was a good man, hard-working and loyal. He'd been devastated when his construction company had downsized, laying off half its workers with barely a week's notice. Since then, he'd been applying for anything and everything, but the economy was tight, and jobs were scarce. She texted back, "Love you too. Something good happened at work. Tell you tonight." She hesitated before sending it, worried about raising his hopes, but they both needed something positive to hold on to. The message sent with a soft whoosh, and Lily tucked the phone away, returning to the front of the cafe. Keanu was gone, his table empty except for the generous tip he'd left. Lily cleared his dishes, feeling a strange mix of relief and disappointment. Part of her had hoped he'd stay longer, maybe give her more details about the job or reassure her that this wasn't an elaborate prank. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. By the time 3 o'clock rolled around, Lily was dead on her feet, her back screaming in protest and her ankles so swollen they looked like they belonged to someone else. "Go home," Diane ordered, taking one look at her. "And maybe think about starting your maternity leave early. You look ready to pop." "I've got another month," Lily protested weakly. "I need the hours." Diane's expression softened. "I know things are tough, but you've got to take care of yourself and that baby. We'll still be here after you've had some rest." The walk home seemed twice as long as usual. The summer heat beat down on her, making her lightheaded. By the time she reached their apartment building, her shirt was soaked through, and she had to stop every few steps to catch her breath. Their building was old and run down, with a broken elevator that had been out of order since they moved in last year. Climbing the 3 flights of stairs to their apartment was a daily challenge that Lily had come to dread. Today she took them one at a time, pausing frequently, her hand pressed against the wall for support. Finally reaching their door, she fumbled with her keys, the eviction notice still taped there like a bright red warning sign. She tore it down, before entering, not wanting it to be the first thing Dave saw when he got home. Inside, the apartment was stifling. The air conditioning had been acting up for weeks, blowing lukewarm air at best. Lily opened the windows, hoping for a breeze, but the air outside was just as hot and heavy. Their apartment was small, 1 bedroom, a tiny bathroom, and a combined living room and kitchen area. They decorated it with second-hand furniture and discount store finds, making it cozy despite its limitations. The nursery corner they'd set up in their bedroom was the only part that looked truly new, with a white crib Dave had assembled and a mobile Lily had made herself from colorful paper. Birds. Lily kicked off her shoes with a groan of relief and headed straight for the shower, hoping the cool water would revive her. As she stood under the spray, she let her mind wander to the possibilities the next day might bring. If the job was real, and if she got it, everything could change. Office jobs paid better than cafe work, and they usually came with benefits. Health, insurance that would cover the baby's checkups, maybe even paid maternity leave. They could stay in their apartment, build a stable life for their child, but if it fell through, she couldn't bear to finish the thought. After her shower, Lily put on her most comfortable clothes and lay down on the bed, intending to rest for just a few minutes. She fell asleep almost instantly, the exhaustion of the day catching up with her. She woke to the sound of keys in the door and Dave's tired footsteps. The room was darker now, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows through the blinds. She blinked, disoriented, then pushed herself up and went to greet him. Dave looked worn out, his clothes wrinkled and his face lined with disappointment. He attempted to smile when he saw her, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Hey," he said, dropping his backpack by the door. "How was your day?" Lily hesitated, suddenly nervous about sharing her news. What if it raised his hopes too high? What if it all fell apart tomorrow? but keeping it from him felt wrong, like stealing a piece of potential happiness they both desperately needed. "Something happened at work today," she began, leading him to the couch. "Something kind of amazing." She told him everything. Keanu coming into the cafe, the note she'd written on impulse, their conversation in the break room, the job interview tomorrow, even the offer to cover next month's rent. As she spoke, Dave's expression changed from skepticism to cautious hope. "Are you serious?" he asked when she finished, taking the business card she offered as proof. "Keanu Reeves just happened to walk into your cafe and offered you a job." "Not exactly," Lily corrected. "He's setting up an interview. I still have to convince them to hire me." Dave stared at the card, turning it over in his hands. I don't even know what this is. A miracle?" "Maybe," Lily said, not wanting to get too carried away. "Or maybe it's just a famous guy who wanted to do something nice. Either way, I have an interview tomorrow and I need to figure out what to wear." That practical concern seemed to ground Dave. He nodded, shifting into problem-solving mode. "What about that black dress you wore to my cousin's wedding last year? The stretchy one?" Lily grimaced. "It doesn't fit anymore. Nothing fits anymore." She gestured at her belly. "I'm not exactly the picture of professional at the moment." "You look beautiful," Dave said automatically, earning a skeptical look from Lily. "Okay, let's think. What about borrowing something? Doesn't your friend Violet work in an office? She's about your size, right?" "She was before this," Lily said, pointing at her stomach again. "But the idea had merit. I could call her, though maybe she has something with an elastic waist." They spent the next hour strategizing what Lily would say in the interview, how she would explain her current job and her pregnancy, what questions she should ask about the position. Dave's mood had lifted considerably, his earlier dejection replaced by a tentative optimism that warmed Lily's heart. "Even if this doesn't work out," he said, his arm around her shoulders as they sat together on the couch, "something will. We're going to be okay." Lily wanted to believe him. She leaned into his embrace, feeling the baby kick between them. "I hope so," she whispered. "I really hope so." Later that evening, after a simple dinner of pasta and sauce, Lily called Violet, explaining her situation and her desperate need for interview clothes. Her friend, always generous, insisted on bringing over several options that night. "You're lucky I kept my maternity work clothes," Violet said when she arrived, arms full of garment bags. "I always thought I might need them again someday." They spread the clothes out on the bed, dresses, pants with stretchy panels, blouses, designed to flatter a pregnant figure. All were stylish and professional, a far cry from Lily's current wardrobe of t-shirts and leggings. "Try this one," Violet urged, holding up a navy blue dress with a subtle pattern. "It's comfortable but looks put together. I wore it to pitch meetings in my 3rd trimester." Lily slipped it on, surprised by how well it fit and how good it made her feel. The cut was flattering, making her look pregnant but polished, exactly the image she wanted to project. "It's perfect," she said, turning to see herself from different angles. "Are you sure you don't mind lending it to me?" "Keep it," Violet insisted. "I'm done having kids and that color looks better on you anyway. Besides, you're going to need work clothes when you get this job." "If I get it," Lily corrected, but Violet just smiled. "You will. You're smart, capable, and determined. Any company would be lucky to have you." After Violet left, Lily hung the dress carefully in the closet, smoothing its fabric with nervous hands. Tomorrow could change everything. She tried not to get her hopes up too high, but it was hard not to dream. That night, as she lay in bed beside Dave, listening to his soft snores, Lily found herself thinking about Keanu Reeves and his unexpected kindness. Why had he bothered to help her? He must encounter people asking for things all the time. What made her note different? Maybe it was the honesty of it, the fact that she hadn't asked for money or an autograph, just an opportunity. Or maybe he'd seen something in her that reminded him of someone else, a sister, a friend, a character from one of his movies. Whatever his reasons, Lily was grateful. Even if the interview led nowhere, he'd given her something precious. Hope. For the first time in months, she fell asleep without worrying about the future. her dreams filled with possibilities instead of fears. The next morning, Lily woke before her alarm, her mind already racing with preparations for the interview. She felt a strange mix of excitement and terror, the opportunity and its stakes looming large in her mind. Dave was already up, making breakfast in the kitchen. The smell of coffee and toast filled the apartment, comforting and ordinary. "Big day?" he said when he saw her, his smile encouraging. "What can I do to help?" "Just keep believing it's going to work out," Lily said, resting a hand on her belly as the baby gave a particularly enthusiastic kick. "Both of us need to believe that right now." Dave nodded, pulling her into a gentle hug. "I believe in you," he said simply. "Always have." Lily closed her eyes, drawing strength from his embrace, from the solid warmth of him against her. Whatever happened today, they would face it together. That knowledge, more than anything else, gave her the courage to reach for the phone and dial the number on the back of the business card, taking the first step toward an uncertain but hopeful future. The cafe hummed with the usual morning sounds, the hiss of the espresso machine, the gentle clatter of cups, the murmur of sleepy conversations. Lily stood behind the counter, trying to focus on making change for a customer, while her mind kept drifting to the receipt she'd just handed Keanu Reeves. What had possessed her to write that note? The question echoed in her head as she smiled automatically at the businessman who barely looked up from his phone as he took his change. Desperation. That's what it was. The kind that comes from staring at an eviction notice and feeling your unborn baby kick, as if reminding you that soon there would be one more person depending on you. Had Keanu even read the note? He'd set the receipt down on his table without a glance, focusing instead on stirring his coffee. Maybe he never would read it. Maybe it would stay face down until he left, then get swept into the trash with the crumbs from his muffin. Lily hoped that would be the case. What had seemed like a brave, necessary gamble just minutes ago now felt foolish and embarrassing. Celebrities probably had people asking them for things all the time. They probably learned to tune it out, to protect themselves from constant demands. She busied herself with wiping down the counter, sneaking glances at his table by the window. He seemed so normal sitting there, not like a movie star at all. Just a guy in a black jacket enjoying a quiet moment with his coffee. If you didn't know who he was, you might not even look twice. A new customer approached the counter, and Lily put on her professional smile, taking their order with practiced efficiency. Another coffee, another muffin, another handful of change. The routine was comforting in its familiarity, a sharp contrast to the churning uncertainty in her stomach. When she looked back at Keanu's table, her heart stopped. He was holding the receipt, reading the back of it. His expression was thoughtful, unreadable. Lily quickly turned away, her cheeks burning. She fumbled with the coffee filters, nearly dropping them, her hands suddenly clumsy with nerves. "You okay?" Tom asked from the kitchen window, his bushy eyebrows raised in concern. "Fine," Lily managed, though her voice sounded strange even to her own ears. "Just tired." She didn't dare look at Keanu's table again, afraid of what she might see. Pity, perhaps, or annoyance. Instead, she focused intently on restocking the napkin dispensers, counting each one she placed as if it were the most important task in the world. It wasn't until she heard the bell above the door chime that she allowed herself to glance up. Keanu was stepping outside, his phone in hand. He hadn't left. His coffee mug and plate were still on the table, but he was standing just beyond the window, phone pressed to his ear. He was making a call. Lily's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. Who was he calling? Was it about her note? Or just a coincidence? A scheduled call that happened to come right after he read her message? She watched as he paced slightly, his expression serious. He nodded occasionally, speaking in short sentences she couldn't hear through the glass. Once he glanced back toward the cafe and Lily quickly looked down, pretending to be busy with the register. The next few minutes stretched endlessly. Lily served another customer, her movements mechanical, her mind entirely focused on the man outside the window. When the bell chimed again and Keanu walked back in, She nearly dropped the coffee pot she was holding. He approached the counter directly, his gaze steady. Up close, his eyes were kind but intense, dark brown and somehow both gentle and penetrating at once. "Excuse me," he said, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "Do you have a moment to talk?" Before Lily could respond, Diane appeared. From the back room, her manager's instinct for customer issues apparently triggering some internal alarm. "Is everything all right?" she asked, looking between them with curiosity. Keanu turned to her with a polite smile. "Yes, everything's fine. I was hoping to speak with—" He glanced at Lily's name tag. Lily for a moment, if that's possible. Diane's eyes widened slightly as she recognized him, her professional demeanor momentarily cracking to reveal the fan beneath. "Of course," she said, a bit too quickly. "Lily, you can use the break room. I'll cover the front." Lily untied her apron with shaking hands, hanging it on the hook by the kitchen. She could feel Tom watching curiously from his station, but she avoided his gaze, afraid her face would give away her tumultuous emotions. The break room was small and uninspiring, just a table with a few chairs, a mini fridge humming in the corner, and a bulletin board covered with safety notices and the cafe's work schedule. It smelled faintly of microwave popcorn and coffee, the lingering sense of countless employee lunches. Keanu gestured for her to sit, a surprisingly formal gesture that made the humble room feel somehow more significant. Lily lowered herself into a chair, resting her hands on her rounded belly in what had become a habit, a protective, comforting gesture. "I read your note," Keanu said simply, taking the seat across from her. He didn't sound angry or put out, just matter of fact. "I'm sorry if it was inappropriate," Lily began, the words tumbling out in a nervous rush. "I don't usually do things like that, but we're in a tough spot and I just thought—" "No need to apologize," he interrupted gently. It took courage to write that note. His response caught her off guard. Courage wasn't what she'd call it. Desperation, maybe. A wild shot in the dark. "I just got off the phone with someone at my production company," he continued, reaching into his jacket pocket. "As it happens, they're looking for an administrative assistant in the office. Their last person just gave notice." Lily's breath caught in her throat. Was he saying what she thought he was saying? "Really?" she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, pulling out a business card and placing it on the table between them. "This is Paula Chen, our HR director." He took a pen from his pocket and wrote something on the back of the card. "Call this number tomorrow morning. She's expecting to hear from you." Lily stared at the card, afraid to touch it, as if it might disappear if she reached for it. The company name was embossed in elegant black letters on heavy cream stock. It looked expensive, professional, a world away from her current life of coffee stains and tip jars. "Thank you," she said finally, picking up the card carefully. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," Keanu replied with a small smile. "Just be at your best for the interview. The job pays well, and the benefits are good. Paula knows about your situation." A lump formed in Lily's throat. He had not only read her note but had taken it seriously enough to make a call, to create an opportunity for her. In a world where most people couldn't be bothered to hold the door for a pregnant woman, his kindness was overwhelming. "About your housing situation," he added, his tone casual, as if what he was about to say was no big deal. "Don't worry about next month's rent. It's taken care of." Lily's eyes widened. "But I wasn't asking for money," she protested. "I didn't mean to." "I know you weren't," he interrupted, his expression kind but firm. "Consider it a baby gift. No strings attached." Before she could respond, there was a knock at the break room door. Tom poked his head in, looking apologetic. "Sorry to interrupt, but we're getting swamped out front, Lily." "Of course," she said, rising awkwardly from her chair. "I'll be right there." Keanu stood as well, nodding politely to Tom. "I should finish my coffee anyway," he said. Then to Lily, "Remember, call tomorrow morning. Paula will be expecting you." They walked back to the front of the cafe together, an odd pair, the famous actor and the pregnant waitress. Diane shot Lily a curious look from behind the counter, clearly bursting with questions, but Lily just shook her head slightly. This moment felt too precious, too fragile to share just yet. Keanu returned to his table as if nothing extraordinary had happened, picking up his coffee mug and taking a sip. Lily went back behind the counter, her legs feeling strangely unsteady as if she'd just stepped off a roller coaster. "Everything okay?" Diane asked in a low voice, passing her a handful of drink orders. Lily nodded, unable to find words that would adequately explain what had just happened. "Everything's fine," she said finally, the understatement of the century. For the rest of her shift, Lily moved through her tasks in a daze, making coffee and serving customers while her mind raced with the implications of what had just occurred. Every few minutes she'd touch her pocket, feeling the outline of the business card through the fabric, reassuring herself that it was real. Keanu stayed for nearly an hour, drinking his coffee and occasionally checking his phone. He didn't try to speak to her again, but sometimes when she glanced his way, she caught him watching her with a thoughtful expression. Not creepy or intrusive, just observant, as if he were making sure his intervention had been the right one. When he finally stood to leave, he left a generous tip under his coffee cup and gave her a small nod as he walked past the counter. No grand gesture, no dramatic farewell, just a simple acknowledgement between two people who had briefly connected. The bell chimed as the door closed behind him, and just like that, he was gone, back to his world of movie sets and red carpets, leaving Lily standing in her world of coffee grounds and tip jars, but with something new, possibility. "Was that who I think it was?" a customer asked, watching Keanu's retreating figure through the window. "Yes," Lily answered, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. Yes, it was. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Lily moved through her tasks mechanically, her mind elsewhere, preparing for the interview, imagining a new life where they weren't constantly one missed paycheck away from disaster, where her baby would have stability and security. When her shift finally ended, she nearly ran all the way home despite the summer heat and her swollen ankles. She couldn't wait to tell Dave, to show him the business card, to share the wild, wonderful news that their luck might finally be changing. The apartment was empty when she arrived, Dave still out job hunting. Lily kicked off her shoes with a sigh of relief and sank onto the couch, finally allowing herself to fully process what had happened. A job interview at a real company, with benefits and regular hours and probably a chair she could sit in, unlike the cafe where she was on her feet all day, and the rent, next month's rent would be paid. They wouldn't be evicted. They would have time to breathe, to prepare for the baby without the looming threat of homelessness. All because Keanu Reeves had walked into her cafe and read a desperate note on the back of a receipt. Lily pulled out her phone and called her mother, needing to share the news with someone before she burst. "Mom, you're not going to believe what happened today." She told the story from the beginning. Keanu walking in, her impulsive decision to write the note, their conversation in the break room, the job opportunity, the offer to pay their rent. As she spoke, she could hear her mother's breathing on the other end of the line, little gasps and murmurs of disbelief. "Honey, are you sure?" her mother asked when she finished. "I mean, it sounds like something from a movie, not real life." "I know," Lily agreed, running her fingers over the embossed lettering on the business card. "I can hardly believe it myself, but I have the card, Mom. I'm supposed to call tomorrow morning." "Well," her mother said after a moment, "I always did like his movies. Now I have another reason to be a fan." They talked a while longer, making plans for the interview, what Lily should wear, what questions she might be asked, how she should talk about her pregnancy and her due date. By the time they hung up, Lily felt more grounded, the surreal events of the day settling into something that resembled reality. She spent the next hour preparing, researching the production company online, reading about their recent projects, trying to understand what an administrative assistant there might do. The more she learned, the more excited she became. This wasn't just any job. It was a foot in the door of an industry she'd always found fascinating. When Dave finally came home, shoulders slumped from another day of rejection, Lily met him at the door, unable to contain her news. "You're not going to believe what happened today," she said, pulling him to the couch. "Sit down. I need to tell you everything." Dave listened with growing amazement as she recounted the day's events, his expression shifting from skepticism to wonder. "Are you serious?" he asked when she finished. "Keanu Reeves just happened to come into your cafe and decided to help you out?" "I know it sounds crazy," Lily admitted. "I can hardly believe it myself." "Let me see this business card," Dave said, still looking doubtful. Lily handed it to him, watching as he examined it, turning it over to see the handwritten phone number on the back. "This is real," he said finally, his voice filled with awe. "This is actually real." "I call tomorrow morning," Lily said, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. "Dave, if I get this job—" "When you get this job," he corrected, pulling her into a gentle hug. "When, not if." They spent the evening planning, dreaming, allowing themselves to hope for the first time in months. The apartment that had felt so oppressive that morning, with its peeling paint and temperamental air conditioning, now seemed full of possibility, a temporary stop on the way to something better. That night, as Lily lay in bed beside Dave, listening to his soft snores, she found herself thinking about all the little decisions that had led to this moment. If she'd called in sick that morning as Tom had suggested, if Keanu had chosen a different cafe, if she hadn't found the courage or the desperation to write that note. Life was full of such moments, tiny crossroads where everything could change based on a single choice. Today, she'd made a choice born of desperation, and somehow, against all odds, it had led to this. A business card with a phone number, an interview tomorrow, a chance for a new beginning. As she drifted off to sleep, one hand resting on her belly where the baby had finally settled down for the night, Lily thought about what she would say to Paula Chen tomorrow, how she would explain her background, her skills, her situation, how she would convince this stranger to take a chance on her just as Keanu had. She woke before dawn, too nervous to sleep any longer. The apartment was quiet, the city outside their windows still largely asleep. Lily made herself a cup of tea, decaf, a concession to the pregnancy, and sat by the window, watching the sky lighten from black to deep blue to the pale gold of early morning. At exactly 9 a.m., she picked up her phone and dialed the number on the back of the business card, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her fingertips. Paula Chen's office. A crisp, professional voice answered on the second ring. "Hello," Lily said, taking a deep breath to steady herself. "My name is Lily Thompson. I believe you're expecting my call. Keanu Reeves suggested I contact you about an administrative assistant position." There was a brief pause, and Lily's heart sank. Had it all been a misunderstanding, a cruel joke? "Ah, yes, Ms. Thompson," Paula said finally, her tone warming slightly. "I've been looking forward to speaking with you. Keanu mentioned you have a business degree and are expecting a baby soon?" Relief flooded through Lily. It was real. All of it was real. "Yes, that's right," she confirmed. "I'm due in about a month, but I'm eager to find a stable position for after my maternity leave." "Well, our timing might work out perfectly then," Paula said. "The current assistant is leaving in 2 weeks, and we'd ideally like someone to start training with her before she goes. But we could certainly be flexible with your start date given your situation." They talked for nearly 20 minutes discussing Lily's background, the job requirements, the company's projects and culture. By the end of the call, Lily had an in-person interview scheduled for the following afternoon. "And Lily," Paula said just before they hung up, "Keanu doesn't usually get involved in our hiring process. The fact that he called me personally about you, well, let's just say you've made quite an impression. I'm looking forward to meeting you tomorrow." After hanging up, Lily sat in stunned silence for a long moment, processing what had just happened. Then she let out a laugh that was half joy, half disbelief. She couldn't wait to tell Dave. He was still sleeping, exhausted from weeks of job hunting and worry. Lily decided to let him rest a bit longer. Instead, she made a cup of coffee, regular for him, and started breakfast, humming softly as she cracked eggs into a bowl. The familiar actions were comforting, ordinary, a counterpoint to the extraordinary turn her life had taken in the last 24 hours. As she stirred the eggs, watching them change from clear to creamy yellow, Lily thought about transformation, about how quickly things could change, a life, a future, a story. Yesterday, she'd been a pregnant waitress facing eviction, with few prospects and dwindling hope. Today, she was a woman with an interview at a prestigious company, with next month's rent taken care of, with possibilities opening before her like doors in a long hallway. All because a kind man had read a desperate note and decided to make a call. When Dave finally emerged from the bedroom, hair rumpled and eyes still heavy with sleep, Lily met him with a kiss and a mug of coffee. "I have news," she said, unable to keep the smile from her face. "Good news." And as she told him about the phone call, about the interview tomorrow, about Paula's words regarding Keanu's personal involvement, Lily watched hope bloom in Dave's eyes, the same hope that was growing in her own heart. Fragile still, but real. Whatever happened next, whether she got the job or not, whether their struggles ended tomorrow or continued for weeks or months, this moment of possibility, this reprieve from constant worry, was a gift beyond measure. A gift from a stranger who had seen her not as a fan or a charity case, but as a person in need of a break. A stranger who had taken the time to read a note on the back of a receipt and make a call that could change everything. As Lily and Dave sat at their small kitchen table, talking excitedly about the future, about the interview, about what this could mean for their family, the baby kicked as if joining in their celebration. "I think someone's excited too," Lily said, placing Dave's hand on her belly so he could feel the movement. "Smart kid," Dave replied with a grin. "Already knows a good thing when they see it." Outside their window, the city was fully awake now, the streets filling with people going about their daily lives, most of them strangers to each other, passing without connection. But sometimes, Lily thought, sometimes strangers could change your life with a single act of kindness. Sometimes all it took was reading a note and making a call. Lily's heart raced as she followed Keanu to the quiet corner of the cafe. The sounds around them seemed to fade, the hiss of the espresso machine, the clinking of cups, the murmur of customers' conversations, all becoming distant background noise as she focused on what was about to happen. He gestured for her to sit at a small table partially hidden by a decorative plant. The privacy it offered was minimal but welcome. Lily lowered herself carefully into the chair, one hand automatically going to support her lower back. 8 months of pregnancy had made even simple movements like sitting down a deliberate process. Keanu sat across from her, his posture relaxed but attentive, up close without the distraction of taking his order or the shock of recognizing him. Lily could see the kindness in his eyes. They were dark and thoughtful, crinkling slightly at the corners when his expression shifted. "I just got off the phone with the HR director at my production company," he said, his voice quiet enough that only she could hear. No preamble, no small talk, just straight to the point. "They're looking for an office manager." Lily blinked, trying to process his words. When she'd written that desperate note on the back of his receipt, she hadn't actually expected anything to come of it. It had been a shot in the dark, a wild gamble born of desperation and dwindling options. "An office manager?" she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. Keanu nodded. "The previous person gave notice last week. They're looking for someone with a business background who can handle scheduling, coordination, some basic accounting. But," Lily gestured vaguely at her swollen belly, "I'm due in a month." A small smile touched his lips. "I mentioned that. They're willing to work with your schedule. Have you start after your maternity leave if that works better for you. The pay is good, benefits start immediately, and they understand your situation." Lily felt lightheaded. Was this really happening? People didn't just get job offers like this, especially not pregnant women with no connections and mounting financial problems. "Why?" she asked before she could stop herself. "Why would you do this for me? You don't even know me." Keanu's expression turned thoughtful. He was quiet for a moment as if considering his answer carefully. "Your note," he said finally. You didn't ask for money or an autograph. You didn't ask me to solve your problems. You just asked for an opportunity. He shrugged, lightly. Not everyone would have had the courage to write that note. I respect that. Lily felt her cheeks warm. It wasn't courage, she admitted. It was desperation. Sometimes they look the same, Keanu replied with a gentle smile. Either way, you asked for a chance, not a handout. That says something about who you are. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card, placing it on the table between them. Call this number tomorrow morning at 9. Ask for Paula Chen. She's expecting to hear from you. Lily picked up the card, reading the embossed company name and address. It felt heavy in her hand, the weight of possibility. Thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know how to... There's one more thing, Keanu interrupted, his tone casual but kind. About your apartment situation. Don't worry about next month's rent. It's taken care of. Lily's head snapped up, her eyes wide. No, I can't accept that. I wasn't asking for money. I just wanted... I know what you were asking for, he said gently. And you're getting that. A fair chance at a job based on your qualifications. The rent is something else. Consider it a baby gift. But, please, he said, his voice still gentle but with a firmness that brooked no argument. Let someone help you this time. Maybe someday you can help someone else when they need it. Lily felt tears prick at her eyes. The kindness of this gesture from a complete stranger was overwhelming, especially after months of struggle where it had felt like the whole world was against them. Thank you, she managed, blinking rapidly to hold back the tears. Crying in front of Keanu Reeves in the middle of her workplace was not something she wanted to add to this already surreal day. He nodded, apparently satisfied. The HR director will tell you more about the position tomorrow, but I think you'll be a good fit. They need someone organized, professional, and adaptable. I am those things, Lily said with newfound confidence. At least I was before pregnancy brain took over. She smiled ruefully. Last week I put my phone in the refrigerator and couldn't find it for 2 hours. Keanu chuckled, a warm, genuine sound. I've done that without the excuse of pregnancy. Found my keys in the freezer once. The small moment of normal conversation eased some of the tension Lily felt. Famous or not, he was just a person, a surprisingly kind one who was going out of his way to help her. But still just a person. I should get back to work, she said reluctantly, glancing toward the counter where Diane was handling a line of customers. Of course. Keanu rose, and Lily struggled to her feet as well, waving away his offered hand with a smile. I've got it, she assured him. I'm pregnant, not helpless. Though ask me again in another month and I might change my answer. They walked back to the front of the cafe together. Lily could feel the curious stares of the other customers, could practically hear the whispered questions. What was a famous actor doing talking privately with a very pregnant waitress? It would probably be the subject of cafe gossip for weeks. I'll finish my coffee, Keanu said, gesturing toward his table by the window. Good luck tomorrow. I think you'll do great. Thank you, Lily said again, the words seeming woefully inadequate for what he'd done. For everything. He smiled and returned to his table, picking up his coffee mug as if nothing extraordinary had just happened. Lily watched him for a moment, still half convinced she'd imagined the whole thing, then turned back to her position behind the counter. Everything okay? Diane asked, her eyes darting between Lily and Keanu, curiosity practically radiating from her. Yes, Lily said, reaching for her apron. Everything's fine. Better than fine, actually. For the first time in months, things were looking up. She had a job interview tomorrow, a real job with benefits, not another service position where she'd be on her feet all day. Their rent for next month would be paid, removing the immediate threat of eviction. She had a chance, a real chance, to change their situation before the baby arrived, all because Keanu Reeves had happened to walk into her cafe and read a desperate note on the back of her receipt. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Lily moved through her tasks automatically, brewing coffee, taking orders, making change. while her mind raced with thoughts of tomorrow's interview. What would she wear? What questions would they ask? How would she explain her unusual connection to the company? Every now and then, she'd glance over at Keanu's table, half expecting him to be gone. The whole encounter nothing more than a pregnancy-induced hallucination. But he remained, sipping his coffee slowly, occasionally looking at his phone. He stayed for nearly an hour, and when he finally left, he placed a generous tip under his mug and gave her a small nod as he passed the counter. No grand gesture, no dramatic farewell, just a simple acknowledgement between two people whose paths had briefly crossed. The bell above the door chimed as he left, and just like that, he was gone, back to his world of movie sets and red carpets, leaving Lily in her world of coffee grounds and tip jars. But her world had changed. She could feel it, a shift in the air, a loosening of the tight band of anxiety that had been constricting her chest for months. When her shift ended at 3, Lily practically ran home, her usual waddle transformed by excitement into something closer to a power walk. She couldn't wait to tell Dave about what had happened, to show him the business card, to share the wild, wonderful news. The apartment was empty when she arrived, Dave still out job hunting. Lily kicked off her shoes with a sigh of relief and sank onto the couch, finally allowing herself to fully process the events of the day. A job interview, at a real company, with benefits and regular hours and probably an actual chair she could sit in, unlike at the cafe where she was on her feet all day. And the rent. Next month's rent would be paid. They wouldn't be evicted. They would have time to breathe, to prepare for the baby without the looming threat of homelessness. All because a kind man had read a desperate note and decided to make a call. Lily pulled out her phone and dialed her mother, needing to share the news with someone before she burst. "Mom, you're not going to believe what happened today." She told the story from the beginning. Keanu walking in, her impulsive decision to write the note, their conversation in the corner of the cafe, the job opportunity, the offer to pay their rent. As she spoke, she could hear her mother's breathing on the other end of the line, little gasps and murmurs of disbelief. "Honey, are you sure?" her mother asked when she finished. "I mean, it sounds like something from a movie, not real life." "I know," Lily agreed, running her fingers over the embossed lettering on the business card. "I can hardly believe it myself. But I have the card, Mom. I'm supposed to call tomorrow morning." "Well," her mother said after a moment, "I always did like his movies. Now I have another reason to be a fan." They talked a while longer, making plans for the interview. What Lily should wear, what questions she might be asked, how she should talk about her pregnancy and her due date. By the time they hung up, Lily felt more grounded, the surreal events of the day settling into something that resembled reality. She spent the next hour preparing, researching the production company online, reading about their recent projects, trying to understand what an office manager there might do. The more she learned, the more excited she became. This wasn't just any job. It was a foot in the door of an industry she'd always found fascinating. When Dave finally came home, shoulders slumped from another day of rejection, Lily met him at the door, unable to contain her news. "You're not going to believe what happened today," she said, pulling him to the couch. "Sit down. I need to tell you everything." Dave listened with growing amazement as she recounted the day's events, his expression shifting from skepticism to wonder. "Are you serious?" he asked when she finished. "Keanu Reeves just happened to come into your cafe and decided to help you out?" "I know it sounds crazy," Lily admitted. "I can hardly believe it myself." "Let me see this business card," Dave said, still looking doubtful. Lily handed it to him, watching as he examined it, turning it over to see the handwritten phone number on the back. "This is real," he said finally, his voice filled with awe. "This is actually real." "I call tomorrow morning," Lily said, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. "Dave, if I get this job, when you get this job," he corrected, pulling her into a gentle hug. "When, not if." They spent the evening planning, dreaming, allowing themselves to hope for the first time in months. The apartment that had felt so oppressive that morning with its peeling paint and temperamental air conditioning, now seemed full of possibility, a temporary stop on the way to something better. That night, as Lily lay in bed beside Dave, listening to his soft snores, she found herself thinking about all the little decisions that had led to this moment. If she'd called in sick that morning as Tom had suggested, if Keanu had chosen a different cafe, if she hadn't found the courage or the desperation to write that note. Life was full of such moments, tiny crossroads where everything could change based on a single choice. Today she'd made a choice born of desperation, and somehow against all odds it had led to this. A business card with a phone number, an interview tomorrow, a chance for a new beginning. As she drifted off to sleep, one hand resting on her belly, where the baby had finally settled down for the night, Lily thought about what she would say to Paula Chen tomorrow, how she would explain her background, her skills, her situation, how she would convince this stranger to take a chance on her, just as Keanu had. She woke before dawn, too nervous to sleep any longer. The apartment was quiet, the city outside their windows still largely asleep. Lily made herself a cup of tea, decaf, a concession to the pregnancy, and sat by the window, watching the sky lighten from black to deep blue to the pale gold of early morning. At exactly 9 a.m. she picked up her phone and dialed the number on the back of the business card, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her fingertips. Paula Chen's office. A crisp, professional voice answered on the second ring. "Hello?" Lily said, taking a deep breath to steady herself. "My name is Lily Thompson. I believe you're expecting my call. Keanu Reeves suggested I contact you about an office manager position." There was a brief pause and Lily's heart sank. Had it all been a misunderstanding? A cruel joke? "Ah, yes, Ms. Thompson," Paula said finally, her tone warming slightly. "I've been looking forward to speaking with you. Keanu mentioned you have a business degree and are expecting a baby soon." Relief flooded through Lily. It was real. All of it was real. "Yes, that's right," she confirmed. "I'm due in about a month, but I'm eager to find a stable position for after my maternity leave." "Well, our timing might work out perfectly then," Paula said. "The current office manager is leaving in 2 weeks and we'd ideally like someone to start training with her before she goes. But we could certainly be flexible with your start date given your situation." They talked for nearly 20 minutes, discussing Lily's background, the job requirements, the company's projects, and culture. By the end of the call, Lily had an in-person interview scheduled for the following afternoon. "And Lily," Paula said just before they hung up, "Keanu doesn't usually get involved in our hiring process. The fact that he called me personally about you, well, let's just say you've made quite an impression already. I'm looking forward to meeting you tomorrow." The interview itself was nothing like Lily had expected. She'd arrived at the production company's offices half an hour early, dressed in a borrowed maternity dress that made her feel almost professional despite her enormous belly. The building was modern and sleek, all glass and steel, nothing like the rundown cafe where she'd spent the last year. Paula Chen turned out to be a petite woman in her 50s with short, stylish hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to miss nothing. She greeted Lily warmly, ushering her into a comfortable office with views of the city. "Before we start," Paula said, settling behind her desk, "I want to be clear about something. Keanu's recommendation carries a lot of weight here. He's not just an actor we work with, he's a partner in the company. But this isn't a charity hire. We need someone who can do the job, and do it well." Lily nodded, relieved rather than intimidated. She didn't want to be hired out of pity. "I understand completely. I'm here because I believe I'm qualified for the position." Paula smiled, something like approval in her eyes. "Good. Then let's talk about your experience and what this role entails." What followed was a thorough but not unfriendly interview. Paula asked about Lily's education, her work history, her experience with scheduling, accounting, and office management. She explained the responsibilities of the position, coordinating meetings, managing office supplies, handling basic bookkeeping, being the first point of contact for visitors and callers. The pay is $65,000 annually to start. Paula said, watching Lily's face closely. Full benefits, including health insurance that would cover your baby, start immediately upon hiring. We offer 4 months of paid maternity leave and have an on-site childcare facility for when you return to work. Lily tried to keep her expression neutral, but it was difficult. The salary was more than double what she made at the cafe, and the benefits were beyond anything she'd dared to hope for. That sounds amazing, she admitted. Paula smiled. We try to take care of our people. Now, about your start date. Ideally, we'd like you to overlap with our current office manager for at least a week of training. But given your situation, she glanced meaningfully at Lily's belly. We can be flexible. I can start right away, Lily said quickly. I mean, I'd need to give notice at the cafe, but I could be here next week. My doctor says I'm fine to work up until my due date as long as I'm not on my feet all day. Paula nodded, making a note in the file in front of her. And after the baby comes? I'd like to take the full maternity leave if that's possible, Lily said, trying to sound confident rather than apologetic. But I'm committed to this position long term. My partner is looking for work as well, and we've discussed childcare arrangements extensively. That all sounds reasonable, Paula said, closing the file. Do you have any questions for me? Lily had prepared for this part, researching the company and thinking carefully about what she wanted to know. She asked about the company culture, the typical day-to-day responsibilities, the opportunities for growth. Paula answered each question thoughtfully, clearly impressed by Lily's preparation. As the interview drew to a close, Paula stood and extended her hand. Thank you for coming in today, Lily. I've been interviewing candidates all week, but I have to say you're the most prepared and the most passionate about the opportunity. Lily shook her hand, trying to contain her hope. Thank you for considering me, especially given my current situation. Not every company would. We're not every company, Paula said with a smile. I'll be in touch by the end of the week, but between us, she lowered her voice slightly. I think you should start giving notice at your cafe. The walk home from the interview was the lightest Lily had felt in months. Despite her swollen ankles and aching back, she couldn't wait to tell Dave everything. About the office with its city views, about the salary that would change their lives, about the childcare facility that would solve one of their biggest worries. When she turned the corner onto their street, she was surprised to see Dave sitting on the steps of their building waiting for her. He jumped up when he saw her, his face anxious. How did it go? He called, hurrying to meet her. You were gone so long I was getting worried. It went well, Lily said, unable to keep the smile from her face. Really well. Paula said she'd be in touch by the end of the week, but she hinted pretty strongly that I should give notice at the cafe. Dave's face broke into a grin. The worry lines that had become permanent fixtures in recent months momentarily smoothed away. That's amazing. Tell me everything. They went up to their apartment, and over a simple dinner of pasta and sauce, Lily recounted every detail of the interview. Dave listened intently, asking questions, his excitement growing with each new piece of information. 65,000, he repeated when she told him the salary. And full benefits? Lily, that's life-changing. I know, she said softly. And there's on-site childcare, Dave. When I go back after maternity leave, the baby can be right there in the same building. He reached across the table and took her hand, his eyes suddenly serious. You did this, he said. You saw an opportunity and you took it. I'm so proud of you. Lily squeezed his hand, thinking of the desperate note she'd written on the back of a receipt. I got lucky, she said. Keanu Reeves just happened to walk into my cafe. No, Dave shook his head firmly. Luck is part of it, sure. But you were brave enough to reach out to ask for what you needed. Not everyone would have done that. And you clearly impressed Paula in that interview, or she wouldn't be hinting that you've got the job. Lily felt a warm glow at his words. He was right in a way. Writing that note had taken courage, born of desperation though it was. And she had prepared thoroughly for the interview, had presented herself as a qualified candidate, not a charity case. We're going to be okay, she said, the realization washing over her like a wave. The baby's going to be okay. Better than okay, Dave agreed, his smile returning. Thanks to you. That night, as they lay in bed together, making plans for the future that now seemed bright with possibility instead of shadowed with worry, Lily thought about what Keanu had said. Let someone help you this time. Maybe someday you can help someone else when they need it. She made a silent promise to herself, to her unborn child, to the stranger who had changed their lives with a simple act of kindness. When she was in a position to help someone else, someone struggling the way they had been, she would. Without hesitation, without judgment, without expecting anything in return, just as Keanu had done for her. 3 days later, the call came from Paula Chen, offering Lily the position with all the terms they'd discussed in the interview. She accepted on the spot, tears of relief and gratitude flowing freely down her cheeks as she thanked Paula repeatedly. Thank Keanu, Paula said before hanging up. He saw something in you worth taking a chance on. Now you just have to prove him right. I will, Lily promised. I absolutely will. She never saw Keanu Reeves at the cafe again. He never came to the production company offices during her training or after she returned from maternity leave, but his influence on her life, his unexpected kindness to a stranger in need remained a constant presence. A reminder that sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places, and that a single conversation can change everything. The morning, light streamed through the windows of the production company's offices, casting a warm glow on Lily's desk. 3 years had passed since that life-changing day in the cafe, and sometimes Lily still couldn't believe how much her world had transformed. She straightened the framed photo of her daughter, Mia, now a curious and energetic toddler with her father's eyes and Lily's smile. Next to it sat a smaller frame holding a newspaper clipping, a piece about anonymous acts of kindness that had featured Keanu Reeves. Lily kept it as a reminder, though she'd never told the journalist her story. Some gifts were too precious to share with the world. Lily had started as the office manager, just as promised. 6 months in, she'd noticed some inefficiencies in the company's accounting processes and had quietly developed a better system. When she'd shown it to her supervisor, she'd been met with surprise and immediate approval. A year later, she was promoted to financial coordinator, overseeing a small team and earning enough that Dave could take his time finding work he truly enjoyed, rather than jumping at the first available job. They'd moved out of their old apartment shortly after Mia was born, finding a sunny 2-bedroom place in a better neighborhood. It wasn't luxury living, but it was clean, safe, and theirs. Every month when Lily paid the rent on time, she remembered those desperate days when eviction had loomed over them like a shadow. "Morning, Lily," called Ben from the tech department as he passed her desk. "Ready for the Christmas party tonight?" "Almost," she replied with a smile. "Just need to finish these reports first." The annual company Christmas party was that evening. Nothing extravagant, just a gathering in the office with food, drinks, and a small gift exchange. Lily had been on the planning committee this year, helping to organize everything from the catering to the decorations. It felt good to contribute, to be a valued part of the team rather than someone barely hanging on. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dave. "Don't forget Mia's daycare closes early today. I can pick her up if you're busy." Lily smiled, typing back a quick thanks. "That would be great. See you both at home before the party." Their partnership had only grown stronger through parenthood and the changes in their circumstances. Dave had eventually found work as a project manager at a construction company, where his hands-on experience and natural leadership abilities had quickly made him invaluable. Life wasn't perfect. They still had bills to pay, still argued occasionally about mundane things like whose turn it was to do the dishes, still worried about whether they were making the right choices for Mia's future. But the constant, grinding anxiety that had once defined their days was gone. They could breathe now. They could plan. They could help others. That last part had become particularly important to Lily. She'd never forgotten Keanu's words that day in the cafe. Let someone help you this time. Maybe someday you can help someone else when they need it. She'd taken those words to heart, looking for ways both big and small to pay forward the kindness she'd received. Sometimes it was as simple as buying coffee for the person behind her in line. Other times it meant mentoring young mothers trying to balance work and family, or volunteering at a women's shelter on weekends. And today, it meant something else, entirely. Lily glanced at her watch, noting that her 11 o'clock appointment would arrive soon. She'd asked for permission to use the small conference room for an interview, not a standard part of her job responsibilities, but her supervisor had agreed without question. She'd earned that trust over the last 3 years through consistent, hard work and dedication. At precisely 11, there was a knock on the conference room door. Lily opened it to find a young woman standing nervously in the hallway, clutching a worn portfolio. "Tanya?" Lily asked with a warm smile. "I'm Lily Thompson. Please come in." Tanya Moore was in her mid-20s with tired eyes and the cautious demeanor of someone who had faced more than her share of rejection. She'd applied for an administrative assistant position that had opened up in Lily's department, and something in her application had caught Lily's attention. Not just her qualifications, which were modest, but the brief explanation of her 3-year employment gap. "Thank you for seeing me," Tanya said as she took a seat at the conference table. "I really appreciate the opportunity." "Of course," Lily replied, sitting across from her. "Your resume was quite interesting." Tanya's expression faltered slightly. "I know there's a gap in my work history. I can explain." "No need," Lily interrupted gently. "You already did in your cover letter. You've been raising your son on your own for the past 3 years." Tanya nodded, her shoulders relaxing slightly. "Yes. His father left when I was 7 months pregnant. It's been challenging." Lily felt a pang of recognition. Under slightly different circumstances, that could have been her, alone, struggling, facing the daunting task of supporting a child without help. "Tell me about your administrative experience before your son was born," Lily said, steering the conversation to more comfortable ground. As Tanya spoke about her previous jobs, her skills, and her eagerness to return to the workforce, Lily watched her carefully. There was a quiet determination in the young woman's eyes, a resilience born of necessity. She might not have the most impressive resume, but she had something perhaps more valuable: the drive of someone who knew exactly what was at stake. "And childcare?" Lily asked when Tanya had finished describing her qualifications. "Do you have arrangements in place?" It was a question that might have seemed intrusive in another context, but Lily knew it was often the make-or-break issue for working parents, especially single ones. "My mother can watch him 3 days a week," Tanya explained. "The other 2 are harder. There's a daycare near my apartment, but it's expensive and the hours don't always align with standard work times." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "You know, our company has an on-site childcare facility. It's available to all employees at a subsidized rate, and the hours match our workday." Tanya's eyes widened slightly. "Really? That would solve so many problems." "It was one of the reasons I took this job initially," Lily admitted. "I was pregnant when I started here, and knowing my child would be in the same building made returning to work so much easier." "You have children?" Tanya asked, a new warmth entering her voice. "A daughter. She's 3 now." Something shifted in the atmosphere of the room, a recognition between 2 mothers, a shared understanding of both the joys and challenges. "Can I ask you something, Ms. Thompson?" Tanya said hesitantly. "Lily, please. And of course. How did you do it? Balance everything, I mean. Every interview I go to, I can see them mentally crossing me off the list as soon as I mention being a single mom, like they're just waiting for me to be unreliable or ask for special treatment." Lily considered the question carefully. "I was lucky," she said finally. "I found a company that values people as whole human beings, not just workers. And I had support, my partner, yes, but also others who stepped in at critical moments." She thought of Keanu, of that simple conversation that had altered the course of her life. She'd never told the full story to anyone at work, though rumors had circulated when she first started. Some believed she had connections in the industry. Others assumed she'd simply been in the right place at the right time. Both were true in their way. "The truth is," Lily continued, "sometimes we all need help. The trick is to accept it when it's offered, use it to get to a better place, and then extend that same hand to someone else when you can." Tanya nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. Is that what you're doing now? Extending a hand. Lily smiled. Let's just say I recognize something in you. Determination, resilience, the will to create a good life for your child no matter what obstacles are in your way. Those qualities matter more than a perfect work history or an advanced degree. She closed the folder containing Tanya's resume. The position pays $45,000 to start, with full benefits beginning on your first day. Hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, with some flexibility for childcare emergencies. And as I mentioned, the on-site daycare is available to you immediately. Tanya stared at her in disbelief. Are you offering me the job, just like that? I still need to consult with my team, Lily clarified. But yes, barring any major concerns from them, I'd like you to join us after the new year. I don't know what to say, Tanya whispered, tears gathering in her eyes. This is more than I hoped for. Sometimes life surprises us, Lily said softly. Not always in bad ways. After the interview, Lily walked Tanya out, showing her the childcare facility on their way to the elevator. The young woman's face as she peeked in at the bright, cheerful room full of playing children told Lily everything she needed to know about her decision. I'll be in touch by the end of the week, Lily promised as they shook hands goodbye. But start making arrangements. I have a good feeling about this. When she returned to her desk, Lily found a memo informing all staff that Keanu Reeves would be stopping by the Christmas party that evening. He was involved in a new project with the company and wanted to meet the team. It would be the first time Lily had seen him since that day in the cafe 3 years ago. Her heart beat a little faster at the thought. Would he remember her? Would he want to know what had become of the desperate pregnant woman who had handed him a note on the back of a receipt? Part of her hoped he would. Another part hoped he wouldn't. His help had never seemed to be about recognition or gratitude. The rest of the day passed quickly as Lily finished her reports and helped with the last-minute party preparations. At 5, she packed up her things and headed home to change and pick up Dave and Mia. Their apartment was warm and bright when she arrived, filled with the sounds of Dave playing with their daughter. Lily paused in the doorway for a moment, taking in the scene. Her little family, safe and happy in a home they could afford, with jobs they enjoyed and a future that looked promising. All because a stranger had shown kindness when they needed it most. Mommy! Mia squealed, spotting her and running over with arms outstretched. Lily scooped her up, inhaling the sweet scent of baby shampoo and the faint trace of the chocolate chip cookie she'd clearly been eating. Hello, my love, she murmured, pressing a kiss to her daughter's curly head. Did you have a good day? As Mia babbled about her adventures at daycare, Lily caught Dave's eye over their daughter's head. He smiled, and in that smile was everything they'd been through together. The struggles, the fear, the unexpected blessing, the slow building of a stable life. Ready for the party? He asked, coming over to kiss her hello. Mia's excited about the Christmas tree building you promised. Lily laughed. The gingerbread house station. Yes, it's all set up at the party. And guess who's going to be there? Tonight? Who? Dave asked, helping Mia put on her shoes. Keanu Reeves. Dave's hands stilled. Really? After all this time? Lily nodded. He's involved in a new project with the company. It'll be the first time I've seen him since he changed our lives, Dave finished quietly. Do you think I should say something to him? Lily asked, suddenly uncertain. Thank him properly. Dave considered this for a moment. I think you should do whatever feels right, but from everything I've heard about him, he probably doesn't expect thanks. He just did what he thought was right in the moment. That's what makes it so extraordinary, Lily murmured. He had no reason to help me. I was just a stranger. A stranger who needed a break, Dave reminded her, echoing Keanu's words from that day. Just like Tanya. Lily smiled, thinking of the young single mother she'd interviewed that morning. Yes, exactly like Tanya. The company party was in full swing when they arrived. The office had been transformed with twinkling lights, elegant decorations and stations set up for various activities. Lily introduced Dave and Mia to her colleagues, many of whom they'd met at previous company events. Mia quickly became the center of attention, charming everyone with her boundless energy and ready smile. "Let's go make that gingerbread house," Lily suggested, steering her daughter toward the children's area where several tables had been set up with cookies, icing, and candies. As they worked together on their creation, which looked less like a house and more like a delicious disaster, Lily kept one eye on the entrance, watching for Keanu's arrival. She still wasn't sure what she would say to him if they spoke, or if she would say anything at all about their previous meeting. "Lily." Her supervisor, Alex, appeared at her elbow. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you. Just helping the next generation of architects," Lily joked, gesturing to the lopsided gingerbread structure she and Mia were decorating. Alex smiled at Mia before turning back to Lily. "I wanted to introduce you to someone. He's here for the new project, and since you'll be handling some of the financial aspects, I thought you should meet." Before Lily could respond, Alex was gesturing to someone across the room. And there he was, Keanu Reeves, looking much as he had 3 years ago, perhaps with a few more lines around his eyes, his hair a little longer. He excused himself from the conversation he was having and made his way over to them. "Keanu, this is Lily Thompson, our financial coordinator," Alex said. "Lily, I'm sure you know who this is." Keanu extended his hand with a warm smile. "Nice to meet you, Lily." Their eyes met, and for a moment Lily thought she saw a flicker of recognition. But if he remembered her, he gave no sign of it. His handshake was firm and friendly, exactly as it would be with any new acquaintance. "The pleasure is mine," Lily replied, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. "This is my daughter Mia, and my husband Dave." Keanu greeted them both with the same warm courtesy, complimenting Mia on her gingerbread house and chatting briefly with Dave about the construction industry. It was all perfectly normal, perfectly pleasant. No hint that this man had once sat across from a desperate, pregnant waitress and changed the course of her life with a single conversation. When Alex pulled him away to meet other team members, Lily felt both relieved and slightly disappointed. Part of her had wanted some acknowledgement, some sign that their previous meeting had meant something to him too. But perhaps it was better this way. His kindness had been genuine precisely because he'd expected nothing in return, not even recognition. "Do you think he remembered you?" Dave asked quietly as they watched Keanu move through the crowd, stopping to speak with various employees. "I'm not sure," Lily admitted. "If he did, he didn't show it." "Maybe that's his gift," Dave suggested. "Doing extraordinary things and then treating them as if they're perfectly ordinary." Lily nodded, thinking that Dave might be right. In a world where so many good deeds were performed for attention or praise, there was something profoundly moving about kindness offered quietly, without expectation. The evening continued pleasantly. Mia grew tired around 8, curling up on Dave's lap with her eyes drooping. They were preparing to leave when Lily felt a presence at her side. She turned to find Keanu standing there, 2 glasses of champagne in his hands. "I thought you might like a toast," he said, offering her one of the glasses. "To new beginnings." Lily accepted the glass, a strange feeling washing over her. "You remember," she said softly. Keanu's smile deepened, reaching his eyes. "The cafe, the note on the receipt." "Of course I remember." "I've wanted to thank you properly," Lily began, emotion suddenly thick in her throat. "What you did that day." "How's the job working out?" he interrupted gently, steering the conversation away from gratitude. Lily took the hint. "Wonderfully. I was promoted to financial coordinator last year. I heard, congratulations." "And the baby." Lily glanced at Mia, now fast asleep against Dave's shoulder. "She's everything." Keanu followed her gaze, his expression softening. "She's beautiful. You have a lovely family." "Yes," Lily agreed. "We're very fortunate." They stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching the party around them. Then, Keanu spoke again, his voice quiet but clear. "I'm glad it worked out. Sometimes people just need a break." "I interviewed someone today," Lily found herself saying. "A single mother trying to get back into the workforce after raising her son alone for 3 years. Her qualifications were decent, but not outstanding." "And?" Keanu prompted when she paused. I offered her the job. Lily met his eyes, seeing, understanding dawn there. Sometimes people just need a break, she echoed. He raised his glass slightly. To the ripple effect, he said. Lily clinked her glass against his. To the ripple effect. They chatted for a few minutes more. About the company, about the new project, about ordinary things that had nothing to do with their extraordinary connection. When they parted, it was with the same friendly professionalism he showed everyone else at the party. No special acknowledgement, no reminder of what he'd done, and somehow that made it all the more meaningful. As they drove home that night, Mia, sleeping peacefully in her car seat, Lily thought about the strange, beautiful symmetry of life. 3 years ago, she'd been desperate, afraid, uncertain of the future. Today, she was stable, secure, able to extend to others the same helping hand that had been extended to her. Penny for your thoughts, Dave said softly from the driver's seat. I was just thinking about chains of kindness, Lily replied. How one good deed can lead to another and then another. How helping someone doesn't just change their life. It changes what they might do for someone else down the line. The ripple effect. Dave nodded. Like what you did for Tanya today. And what I'll keep doing, Lily said with quiet determination. Whenever I can, however I can. When they arrived home, Dave carried their sleeping daughter inside while Lily paused for a moment looking up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, stars were being born, galaxies were forming, the universe was expanding in ways too vast to comprehend. And here, in this small corner of existence, people were helping each other, one act of kindness at a time. It wasn't world peace or the cure for cancer. It was smaller, quieter. A pregnant waitress being given a chance. A single mother finding work, a family staying in their home. But these small kindnesses, these everyday miracles were what made life bearable in the hard times and beautiful in the good ones. Lily thought of Keanu, of his quiet generosity, his refusal to make a big deal of what he'd done. She thought of all the stories she'd heard about him over the years, leaving $1-million salaries for the crew, buying motorcycles for stuntmen, sitting with homeless people and listening to their stories. Not all heroes wore capes or saved the world. Some just noticed when someone was struggling and took a moment to help. Some just read a note on the back of a receipt and made a call that changed everything. As Lily finally turned to go inside, to join her family in the home they might never have had without that single act of kindness, she made a silent promise to herself and to the universe. She would keep the chain going, link by link, ripple by ripple, for as long as she could. After all, everyone deserved a break sometimes. Everyone needed a helping hand. And sometimes the person best equipped to offer that hand was someone who knew exactly how it felt to receive it.